Is there such thing as a donor knowing too much about the charity that they're being asked to donate to?
I guess I don't understand the question.
Well, in other words, are there ever things about that charity or the relationship that they have with the professional fundraiser that you would rather donors not know when they receive a call soliciting money?
I would rather that the donor allow us to draw their attention to the charity's good works and programs. But the first 10 to 12 seconds of every phone call is spent on us disclosing openly and honestly that we are a professional fundraising organization, that we are working on behalf of the charity at that moment that we're calling for, and then beginning to explain that charity and its organizations, and its programs.
Why not tell people at the start of the call that in some cases as much as 80% of what they donate is going to the people on the phone?
And you pointed to this earlier, Ross. I mean, let's be very honest. People don't like being interrupted. They view the call as an intrusion. I have, at most, that 10 to 12 seconds and maybe a couple more to gain someone's attention and have them listen to the rest of the reason for the call. And because the first 8 seconds of that call are spent on required disclosures, it's more important that I say something that might get your attention and keep you on the line so that I can explain why I'm calling and what we're calling you for.
But if you make that great sales pitch and never mention the fact that only 20 cents of the dollar that I'm giving is going to help the veteran that I want to help, won't I feel like I'm kind of being ripped off?
You might, but I guess I would answer you in a completely different way. If you rewind the clock 30 years, I'm going to pause, but I'm still going to answer your question. You might feel that way. However, the problem is there are charities that are either unrecognized to you, or you are unfamiliar with their mission, or frankly, it may be something that's very difficult to raise money for. 30 years ago, AIDS was viewed as the gay man's disease, and that was an incredibly difficult organization and cause to raise money for, but that doesn't mean it wasn't worthy of time and attention. And if I'm spending my time drawing your focus to how much money it costs to have you listen to me, you don't hear the real value of the call. And even if it's only 20 cents on the dollar today, the hope is that you will continue to give to those causes, and that 20 cents becomes the 50, 70, 80 that you would like to see get to the bottom line.
Are you aware if any of the charities you guys call on behalf of are under any investigation right now?
There are several.
Which ones?
I'd rather not say their names because I don't think that the investigation is based on anything that's fair and real, and it's been continuing for some period of time.
Well, wouldn't a donor expect that that's a fair question?
For you to ask or for them to ask because they didn't know it?
Well, shouldn't a donor know that the charity that they're being called to donate to is at the same time you're asking for money being investigated for some sort of fraud?
Not at all.
Why not?
Because I think that in the vast preponderance of those instances, it takes one or two assertions, and I want that word really focused on assertions of wrongdoing for an attorney general to begin an investigation, because that's their responsibility, and I appreciate that. And most of those, if not almost all, prove to be unfounded, or they settle because an attorney general has nearly unlimited resources and a charitable organization doesn't. And the charities at the same time are being attacked for not spending their money on their programs and the things that really are meant to be the focus of what they do, and instead they're forced to spend the vast preponderance of their resources defending what are unfounded assertions and allegations.
Just in the interest of disclosure, and if there's others, let me know, but I do plan on saying that the Breast Cancer Society and the Children's Cancer Fund are the two that have been named. If there are others, that may be. I don't.
Okay.
So at this point, you're not comfortable saying who they are?
Well, you've said that you found two charities that
Correct.
are being investigated. As far as we know at this point, those investigations have had no foundation in any meaningful evidence of wrongdoing at all.
And how do you know that?
Because we work with these organizations every day.
But have you talked to the Attorney General's office in New York?
Well, I don't know if you're aware, but our compliance officer spent 23 years working in one of the state Attorney General offices, and 2 decades of that time investigating fraud and citizen complaints. And the information that we're being provided through that individual is at this point, they have not found any evidence of wrongdoing.
And that's from the Attorney General of New York?
No, that's from our compliance officer who spent 23 years working for one of the state attorney generals.
So have you asked the Attorney General in New York whether or not these charities have been found to be not guilty of any wrongdoing?
I personally haven't asked any of the attorney generals anything.
So at this point, you don't know if that's true?
I know that at this moment, we are not aware of them having been found wrong of anything.
Isn't that kind of something that you'd want to be sure of before calling folks and asking for money?
At this point, my honest answer is no. We've worked for both of those organizations for better than 10 years, and through every means available to us, we find that they are above board, doing the right thing, and spending the dollars raised on the causes they purport. And as far as I'm aware, those investigations have been going on for some time, a longer time than would be reasonable if something was really wrong. If every time an individual or a state attorney general alleged a wrongdoing, we stopped working with an organization, I think it would be awfully difficult for us to raise money. I mean, you refer to Charity Navigator. They badmouth organizations like ours and charities all the time. Doesn't mean all of it's fair, doesn't mean all of it's valid. The Better Business Bureau rates some of our organizations as A's and others as F's, partially because they are members, partially because they report their financials in a way that is either favorable or unfavorable to the Better Business Bureau. We have organizations that have high and low ratings, win awards and don't win awards, and I don't think it would be reasonable for us to stop assisting them.
Last question, and I'll give you a chance to say anything else that I didn't cover or any points you want to make. Rich Fisher, who we did talk to for this story, who sits on the board of the Foundation of American Vets, they've been using you guys for a long time, and they say they've not found a better way. If there's a better way, they'd like to know what it is to raise money. But even he said, and this is his word, that their record of donating what they ultimately receive is appalling. What would you say to that when even a board member is acknowledging that?
I would say that I hope every organization that feels they're unable to give more of their dollars to the missions, programs, and causes they'd like will hopefully find the kind of traction that American Cancer Society or Salvation Army gets, because it's that name recognition, it's government underwriting, it's the support of huge corporations that eventually allows them to get there. And until they're at that point or have better resources, people will feel that it's appalling. And our mission is to provide value and eventually put those organizations in a place where more of every dollar raised goes directly to the people they're trying to help.
Is there anything you wanted to add or question I didn't ask that you'd like me to, point you wanted to make, something you wanted to revisit?
I think the only thing I would say is, I think it's just very unfortunate that as an organization, our company or any other professional fundraiser is attacked for helping really worthwhile causes raise money. I also think it's unfortunate that in general, and I'm not excluding myself from this statement, people feel better about giving money to an organization with whom they're already familiar. It makes it that much easier for every one of those groups to raise dollars, and that much harder for every smaller, newer charity to become connected to the same group of individuals who might well support them.
And not to belabor the point, but since you brought it up again, if I'm familiar with the American Cancer Society or some other charity with a much higher level of giving, why would I give my money to the one that hasn't quite figured out how to do this efficiently yet, that's only giving 10 or 15 or in some cases 3 cents of every dollar to the charity they're raising it for?
I don't think it's because they haven't figured it out. I would suggest that in many cases, again, the dollars are going to a different place. American Cancer Society doesn't support every single facet that other smaller or newer organizations supports with respect to cancer. Additionally, Those charities are never going to gain that kind of traction and recognition without corporate partners, government sponsorship, and the assistance of groups like ours. One of the things that I failed to, accurately or effectively convey is that we have, through our compliance officer, a very thorough process where we examine the charities, and if there are any allegations of wrongdoing, we do everything possible to ensure that they are untrue and unfounded. The moment we find that a charity we work with is doing something that is inappropriate or fraudulent, we cease working for them.